Hello and welcome to the Squeaky Bum Time Podcast, presented exclusively on the Chop Sports channel of the Premier Streaming Network. We are recording this on Thursday, March 30th. I am your host, Laurent Courtines. In this episode, the international break is over. Thank God. We can boogie with Scotland in the internationals. But first, the scariest game of the year is back. It is Manchester City versus Liverpool at the Etihad, and I am going to get into it. First, like, share, subscribe. Like, share, subscribe. Grab it on Facebook. Grab it on YouTube. Grab it on your favorite podcast player. The Squeaky Bum Time Podcast is everywhere. It's on the Premier Streaming Network, but they are our friends and let us go where we want to go. So get involved and get to it. So first, I want to go straight to Liverpool City because these games are what I call the Nuevo Classico. Over the last 5 years, these games have been incredible, passionate, intense, the best football you can see. It's not chippy. There's no violence between these two teams, but they have a mutual respect. The fans know that it's a game that we both feel awful about. I know Manny has deep-seated hatred for seeing Bernardo Silva run down and close everything down he can find in the universe. He never stops running, never stops ever. But that's why he always plays in these games, because he's absolutely incredible. Both teams come in okay form. City just on a good streak of unbeaten in their last 7, and their last 6 with a draw. Liverpool losing their last match to Bournemouth. No, that's not their last match. What? Did they lose their last match to Bournemouth before the international break? Yes, they did. Oh, what a pathetic team they are. They're having a very, very tough season. I forgot how shit they've been. So that's pretty incredible and pretty funny. So we see where they are going into that game. Injuries are a part of this. So we know a couple things for each team that are around. So for City, the big damage is Phil Foden is out until May. No. He was just getting into form. He's had a hard time. He's having his appendix removed. Why does he need an appendix? Just play with it. He must have really been shitting his pants a lot or in a lot of pain. I remember my friend Jose in the 6th grade missed the whole school year because he had his appendix out. Wow, Jose, hang in there. Erling Haaland, I'm not sure if this is real. He missed his international with the net with Norway, but then is he hurt? Is he not hurt? I'm not sure. Nobody knows. But Julian Alvarez would be available. City already, we're fine. I'm not worried about it. And then Kevin De Bruyne comes in incredible form. City have been playing this weird 4-back concept with John Stones and Nathan Ake at right and left back. They can do it. They're good enough. But, it is a little bit defensive, especially when you have Akanji, Diaz, Stones, and Ake. Oof, that is just so much defense. We lose a little in our flow, but does that make a difference? I don't know. Pep is all over the place. I don't know what this team does anymore. They're all over the place. For Liverpool, it's no Thiago still. Bacetic, I think, is a big miss for them. He held the fort for a while there and was doing okay. The nice thing is Simakis and Darwin Nunez should return. I'm afraid of Darwin Nunez. He's really good. He brings a lot of energy to this game and brings a lot. And we'll see if Liverpool's front three of Salah, Gakpo, Nunez. I know Nunez wanted to be in the middle, but now he's out on the left, supporting Gakpo. It seems to work. Gakpo as Firmino makes more sense. He's the footballer. He drops in. And then we'll see the Elliott, Fabinho, Henderson thing. Liverpool. They're going to do their thing. The only thing I can think of that's interesting about the back line for Liverpool is Van Dijk got blasted by the Dutch press saying he's not a leader. He says a lot, but doesn't do a lot and doesn't win anything. Very weird. But they don't come in great form. I think the fact of the matter is any game can become a performance for Liverpool. You have these amazing highs and lows, 7-0 versus United, and then 1-0 versus Bournemouth. City could bring out the best. I don't know. City have not been their flying, attacking death machine. Yes, I know Erling Haaland has 40 goals, but I watch City every week, week in and week out. And let me tell you, this team is not as fluid. This is not your mom's Manchester City. This is not your dad's Manchester City. Raheem Sterling isn't walking through that door. Leroy Sané isn't walking through that door. Fernandinho knocking guys over, smiling and helping them up is not walking through that door. There's a lot less athleticism, but there is more control. So City are more methodical, slower. There seems to be only one person who passes the ball to Erling Haaland, and that is Kevin De Bruyne. Thank God for that, because without De Bruyne, Haaland doesn't get service. There was a little period there where De Bruyne was slipping, and he has come back into form. Something that is interesting. I'm a big fan of who scored, and they had a stat that in terms of they have an automated rating system that does the 1 to 10 thing, and they kind of are a good place to get a sense of where your team is. Erling Haaland, Phil Foden, and Kevin De Bruyne are some of the lowest form players from the beginning of the season. What does that mean? From the change in the World Cup. They had much better form before the World Cup than they did after. And that visually does come true. Now, they were at such high levels that they were at 7.9 and now they're at 7.1 or 7.7 and now they're at 7 even. But, it is crazy. Just to give you a sense on season averages, Haaland's at 7.2, 7.5, excuse me. De Bruyne's on 7.5, and they're the top of the league. Gundogan 6.97, Rodri, who's great, 7.4. Alisson on Liverpool is 6.95. He's the number one goalkeeper in the world, and no one except for Mo Salah is over 7 for Liverpool. And your friend Harvey Elliott is a 6.5. So just to give you a sense of the numbers they have a whole algorithm. It's fun to look at. And again, it's just one of these things like, how do we measure people? How do we know what they're doing? It tends to overvalue left backs or right or defensive players. Like if you look at this, Ben Mee and Tarkowski have been the best center backs ever, which is a little bit weird and a little bit wily. So that's the early game. I'm super excited about it. I don't have like one of my profound moments for this, but I do think about this as our Nuevo Classico, our big, the world is watching game. Now, granted, City will never be in the class of Real Madrid or Barcelona, but I think from a where is the best talent in the world playing and where you're going to see the best football, I think this game is it, or has been at least, because Liverpool's midfield has really damaged their credibility in this game, to be fair. And City is still playing at a high level, but it's not as frantic, not as incredible. It's much more subdued and chilled versus what it was. So it's a little bit different and a little bit quieter than it has been, which is a shame. Just for everyone to know. But it's still a great game, and I'm expecting City. This is a must win. If City lose this game, the title's over. And I've been through this with Liverpool a million times. January 3rd, 19, all the games, Leicester going game after game after game after game after game. And I'm semi-glad that it's not as loaded, but it is pretty loaded, just to give a sense of where we are. Other games, so that's the early game tomorrow. Then we're going to have a relegation battle, Nottingham Forest. These are all the 3:00 games, so these will be all on Goal Rush. Forest versus Wolves. Arsenal Leeds, where we'll go next. Bournemouth v Fulham. Brighton Brentford, always a great game. Palace versus Leicester. Those are all the 3 p.m. games. Then we'll have Chelsea and Aston Villa to round out Saturday. Then on Sunday, we'll have West Ham versus Southampton and Newcastle versus Manchester United. So those would be the big games that I'm thinking about. Next, we'll go to Leeds and have a look there. as much as I want Arsenal to lose, I just can't see it. Relatively uninjured. Actually, that's not true. Saliba is out. So Rob Holding and his wig will come back into the side. If he wears that fucking headband again and taunts people about his hair, I'm going to be very angry. Aside from that, Nketiah's out. Not a big deal. Thomas Partey, doubtful, along with Kieran Tierney. But he's not a starter anymore. So Partey not being in the squad would be something that's an advantage for Leeds to take advantage of. But they have their own missing players. Tyler Adams, Stuart Dallas, and Adam Forshaw are all out for them. They do bring back the great and powerful Willy Gnonto, who I want to always call gnocchi because he looks like a gnocchi, except he's a black gnocchi. He's an African-Italian player. Really great, fun team. I still don't like Meslier, who I've complained about. He has a mistake in him. Koch and Cooper just try and hang on in defense. And Ayling, who's a championship level player, who's come up with Leeds the whole time, is still playing. He's going to have to match up against Martinelli. That's not going to be easy for him. Firpo is more of an attacking player. He'll be going up against Saka. So there'll be a lot of work for McKennie and Cooper to help out with Saka. The front three of Arsenal are clicking right now, especially when you throw in Odegaard as the fourth. Martinelli, Trossard, Saka, Odegaard is about as formidable a group as you're going to get. For my beloved Brighton, Trossard was fantastic. We all knew it. We all knew he'd come in and just be a part of it. I think he fits in more with this group versus Gabriel Jesus, who, as much as he was important early in the season, he really didn't score, but what he did was he showed force. He showed energy. He gave the team personality that I think Arsenal took on. They did take on that City high-energy personality, and Nketiah gave them a bridge the gap through there. But Trossard coming in gives them a focal point and a kind of nous and technical slickness that goes along and relieves some of the pressure on Odegaard to create everything. And between Martinelli, and Saka moving around, it's going to be really, really hard for Leeds to get out of this game. Now, after international breaks, always difficult, always tough, always tricky. Saka had a great time in the UK. Holding didn't play. I don't know, Gabriel, where he went. White didn't play for England. Zinchenko had a game, but it was for the Ukraine in England, so that was no big deal. And Ramsdale did not see any minutes. So they come in relatively intact. God, I just want Arsenal to lose. I don't want them to win the league. Is it okay to say that? Am I allowed to wish ill on Arsenal? Please, will you fucking blow this season? I think their chance to blow it got blown away with the Aston Villa and the Bournemouth games that were such emotional highs. And then they were able to turn it down, have the easy wins versus Palace and Fulham, and that really settled the nerves. So they had the emotional games that you thought would have been at the end of the season, but they had them right in week 13 and 14 to blow a lead of 8 points, even if you have a game, even if City has a game in hand with 10 to go, would be an epic collapse. Epic collapse. This Arsenal team don't have that in them right now. Don't have that in them right now. They are in this thing. If they lose it, they blew it. That's it. Anything less than winning the title at this point for Arsenal is a bottle and choke job. It simply is. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. They simply have to just hang on. They can even lose the City game. It'll get very squeaky bum time. Everyone has to drink. But they have a lead. There's a reason for it. They lose to City. They got a 2-point lead. They're fine. City has to win every single game. Every single game. Week in, week out. Try and beat Bayern. Try and win the FA Cup. This is Arsenal's to win, not a worry about them at all. I'm putting the pressure on Arsenal. Don't fucking let it slip. You've got to go again and again and again. you like that one? And then a game that I love, and I know there's probably other games to jump around, but Brighton versus Brentford. I talk about these two clubs all the time. They're great clubs with great stories. probably two of the best run clubs in the Premier League. Not the biggest, not the richest, but best run from top to bottom. Tony Bloom and Bellingham both run these clubs perfectly. They're linked as usual. I like to say it over and over again. They worked in the gambling data world and both made lots of money. I think Benham was a quant and actually worked in making money in the city in London, and then went into football and gambling, bought Midtjylland first and then Brentford. And they've both lifted their respective clubs that they love into this place where they both can battle, both can show different ways to win, different innovative ways. With Brighton, you had Potter, but you had this great recruitment and Ainsworth, who's now on to Newcastle, and Bloom having a strong structure of how they want to build the club, getting the Amex done, getting to the Premier League, having a step-by-step process, now developing players, selling them on, and reloading again, right? They've moved on Trossard because they had Matoma already. They're going to move on Caicedo because they've got McAllister, or they'll move on McAllister and try and keep Caicedo. They've got the players. They've got Billy Gilmore in the wings. They're waiting for either Caicedo or McAllister to go, and they'll put Billy Gilmore in, and they'll give him a shot, even though he had a big name move, but he's still there and he can still do stuff. He's got to get strong. I saw him on the bench for Scotland. For Brentford, they're in a really strong place right now. They're really about Tony. He's probably going to get a ban for his gambling, but right now they're in really great shape. Both teams can feel good about their status. Brighton have more to play for. They still are in the FA Cup. They still have a chance to make it to Europe. It's distinctly possible. I don't think they will, but they can. Neither team has too many crazy injuries of their starters. I guess Vitaly Janelt is sort of bigger for Brentford. And then we know about Adam Lallana being hurt. His career is probably getting closer to over than beginning again. But that midfield for Brighton, hardworking, destructive. Norgaard's one of the most underrated midfielders in the league. Jensen, Norgaard, Damsgaard, just such a strong group. Sometimes Janelt comes in, and then Tony and Mbeumo making it all happen. And then Pinnock and me, just great, strong defense along with Raya. They know who they are. They play as they will, and they just go for it. And then on the Brighton side, you're going to see an attacking super funk team: Matoma, McAllister, March, Ferguson, who I love. Evan Ferguson, 18 years old, giant Republic of Ireland striker, getting into it with Mbappe already. Just great. And of course, my most lovable defender. I love Lewis Dunk. I won't be shy about it. I think Dunk and Webster are the most underrated pair in the league. They've already swapped out for Robert Sanchez. They're like, you know what? We're good. And they've now, because he was making mistakes, and they're going with Jed Steele, which is just crazy what De Zerbi's done. I love this team. And then Estupiñán and Caicedo, the South Americans, just giving him the business. Caicedo, I think are they both Ecuadorian or one's Ecuadorian? I don't know. I just fucking love them. Estupiñán. I think they're both Ecuadorian. So that's one of the they're both Ecuadorian. That's one of the markets that Brighton has seen value in, a smaller South American country, and they've gone and really scouted well and done a good job with their network to find players that are unusual. McAllister probably taken just because he's going bald. His dad's bald. I just like to make fun of balds. That's just what I do. That's just how I do it. Those will be the games that I've got my eye on as I go through this week's matches. The stories are starting to slow down. I mean, we've got Spurs that I've talked about under multiple episodes. We know that Conte's out. I think Spurs plays on the Monday, so they're less on the radar yet. I'll just go one further. Yeah, Spurs plays Everton on Monday. An important game that they really can't lose, even though it's at Everton with Dyche. They're going to have a big fight on their hands. But the game I want to go to next after Brighton is I do want to go Newcastle, Manchester United. This is a big one for Newcastle. They've righted the ship in that they have now got Isak at the helm, at the striker position. He's just such an upgrade over Callum Wilson. He's making the thing go. He kind of undoes the muck that was going on, especially they had that malaise period where Guimaraes was out, and he's so vital to the team. This team's not quite good enough yet to miss any player. So when Bruno wasn't there, Botman and Schär got exposed. Dan Burn just is such a try-hard, but he's a 6'7" left back. It's fucking weird. And then Trippier, of course, fantastic. That defensive five, Burn, Botman, Schär, Trippier, and Pope, just imperious. Only 19 goals conceded all season. And then for them, their problem is scoring goals. So they'll get Isak on the ball and see how things are going. Almiron is out, which is a downgrade for them. They really needed him. He hurt his thigh on international duty. But, there's not much depth there. You have Anthony Gordon, maybe, Saint-Maximin, maybe. You don't know what you're going to get from them. For United, still Casemiro out with the red card of absurdity. A bunch of players that are doubtful, but, I feel like Rashford, Varane, they'll be there, and we still have no sight of Eriksen, who they're going to need. But thankfully, they did such a great job during the window that they got Sabitzer and Weghorst, not guys that will be there forever, but guys that are there now that help United. This should be I could see it being a draw for these teams, and Weghorst really has to score. Did you know that in their international duty against the mighty Maltese, at Malta, the island in the middle of the Mediterranean, the Netherlands took 50 shots? I don't even know how you take 50 shots. What's that? One every other? That's every 40 seconds they were taking a shot on goal. Weghorst, of course, didn't score because, why would he score? He's just a madman. But we'll see where that is. That's about as even a game as you could call, especially with Newcastle at home. At home. I do think, there's a parallel between these two teams that goes back through Premier League history, and they do hold something. Either it's the I Would Love It from Kevin Keegan when they were blowing the title, or just the colors and the letters, Newcastle United, Manchester United, black and white and red and gold. There's something romantic about the smell, the connection between the two clubs. There's something extra about it, representing the East, the Northeast, and the Northwest together as two clubs that are important for England, but maybe not for the world, but for England. I think Newcastle does hold something special, especially against United. It's reminiscent of a time. It's reminiscent of Shearer. It's a reminiscent of Sir Bobby Robson. There's a lot of important early Premier League history between these two clubs that, as the narrative of the Premier League was forming, they started it. They get their names into the books and they become part of the story. Newcastle have had two good periods, and now they're in their third period. They had early period just before Shearer joined, when they thought they were going to win. They had finished second, and then Shearer joined them when he, shirked United from Blackburn, and then they had a decline when they had a decline period, and then Robson comes back in the mid 2000s where they do make the Champions League again. Then they have a false dawn under Mike Ashley, one season with Pardew, the Pape Cisse season, when they finished fifth inexplicably. They should never have finished fifth, and then they sort of stayed. They got relegated, and they had gotten relegated before, Sam Allardyce and all this sort of bullshit. Anyway, great club, great matchup, fun game. I'm into it. Player to watch for me is, how's Rashford doing? He's gone off the boil a little bit, and I think if United really want to kick on and solidify their top four, they need Rashford to play well. United have done it a little bit with smoke and mirrors. This is not an underlying numbers great team. They still don't score enough goals from the number 9 position. They live on Rashford's amazing fucking clinical firing. And then, there's still Fred playing, and there's still something's off when they don't have their players. They're not as good as they should be. So just be careful, United. You're doing well, but don't rest on your laurels. Like, they still have to grind and still have to really work to get their wins, because they don't blow teams away. They win by 1 goal and really hang in there and fight as a unit. I do like what I've seen from United, but I don't think they're quite at the level of some of their friends, right? Like, yes, they're in third. They're only a +6 goal difference. Now, did they give up a 7 goal difference? Let's say they lost 3-0. It'd still be only a 9 goal difference, right? As opposed to the +6. So that puts them in line more with Brentford and behind Brighton as a +6 than you'd expect. So something tricky there, something to think about with United, that they have had tendencies to get blown out sometimes when things don't work right. So they have to be careful. They have to really work, have to really be strong, and then their margins are very small. They could lose to Newcastle, but if they work hard and play they had been when they were in form, they'll be fine. So interesting stuff there. So we talked about United. We talked Brentford. I went to Manchester United and Newcastle. Fun little game here. I think Chelsea versus Aston Villa. Chelsea had a bad run the other day that would have been a bit of an embarrassment for Chelsea to have drawn just before the break. And with Everton, that 2-2 game that they really, really felt like a loss. Ellis Sims pulling it out where they just got outworked. And that should never happen. I think Potter will need to have a good performance against Aston Villa, against a quality manager with a strong team. I think, honestly, Unai Emery should be the coach of Chelsea. He's probably a better manager. He just has that narrative of that good evening, that he's a little bit weird. He's a little bit awkward. But in terms of like coaching, like if you could remove any of the sort of good evening and the kind of the dark hair and the kind of strange faces that Unai Emery makes, he's a great coach and a winner, wins trophies. And his defensive tactical mentality is more in line with Chelsea than what I think Potter is. So interesting mix there. I could see Emery actually getting to Chelsea. He might be the right kind of manager for them down the road, but maybe not. I don't know. I could be wrong there. I could be completely off base with that. But Chelsea need a performance there because I think, they did get off the schneid and get themselves back together, but Aston Villa are good and they're well coached, and Ollie Watkins is gonna work hard, and you're not gonna beat them because he didn't work. It feels like Watkins, Buendia, Bailey, Ramsey as a foursome going forward is really strong, and then McGinn and Louise are putting their partnership back together. So I think Villa, they have a strong known group. Their weaknesses are like Mings has a mistake in him. Konza can be asleep at the wheel. Martinez might do something silly once in a while, but they're quite good and quite strong. But Chelsea have way more talent and should be able to pull this out. But it is a weird sort of group. Thiago Silva missing for Chelsea, still a big deal. They need him back. Then there's so many players on Chelsea. I can't even go through the list. There's just hundreds and hundreds of players just missing. There's just so many dudes. The big news, though, is that N'Golo Kante could return, which would be great for football, would be great for Chelsea. Chelsea never win when he's not playing. When he plays, they are a contender. When he doesn't, they are not. I think that has been the big important thing since 2016. Chelsea win with Conte and lose without him. So I can't wait to see Fernandes, Conte, where Kovacic plays, or if they're smart enough to go to a back four and let Conte play in a 3 with Kovacic and Fernandes. I don't know. I don't know what sort of flexibility Potter has. He loves his 3 at the back so that he can have Chilwell and James flying forward. And they are better when those two are there. But we'll see what's happening. They've got to score goals. Chelsea, by the way, secretly, even in this dark period, really have a good defense. They don't really give up much at all. I think that's the secret to them is they bore you to death and then they don't score and then they lose 1-0 or they draw. But Chelsea will have their hands full versus Aston Villa, a very, very good, well-coached team that Mike and I, going way back to Lampard, really liked this team, and they should never have been where they were. And that's why Gerrard got fired. Frankly, he just didn't have them where they were. And right now, Aston Villa are right where they should be. They're, within a few points of 9th on 38. They will not go into 12th. There's no chance. So they are comfortably a mid-table side, sitting right in there. They could get as high as 6. Liverpool's on 42, Aston Villa on 38. There's no guarantee that Liverpool are going to kick on. They have been poor almost all season, so we don't know what's going to happen there. Want to keep on some of our relegation friends. Bournemouth versus Fulham. Bournemouth at home. Fulham missing Mitrovic, missing Silva after the bump. Fulham's underlying numbers really poor. I could see Bournemouth pulling this one out. Fulham you should fade them. Their numbers are not good. They've been living on Paulinho's amazingness, but they could start to slip because the luck runs out. That little 5% of energy, I could see Bournemouth getting a win here, especially at home, especially in a relegation battle. And then another relegation mega battle. We have Crystal Palace at home versus Leicester, West Ham versus Southampton. Uncle Roy takes over. Palace, I don't know how he's going to play. The problem for Crystal Palace was not defense. They couldn't score. So I don't know what Roy's going to do. Is he just going to sit further back? He's got to get them going forward. While Leicester's problem is the opposite. They love going forward. If they score goals, they'll give up 4. But the thing is, Leicester's problem is they concede tons, but Crystal Palace doesn't score any. So I could see Leicester winning this game away from home pretty easily. And the Boo Birds and the darkness will come for Crystal Palace. I expect Leicester to beat Palace. And then West Ham versus Southampton. Southampton are dynamic and fun, and I like what's going on with them, but you've got to think. I mean, if David Moyes loses to Southampton at home on Sunday, he's getting fired. That's just the fact of the matter. They cannot. This game is about as must win for David Moyes as he's had all season. He's had a lot of games. He's had a lot of chances. He's the only manager in the bottom 7 he's the only club manager from the bottom 7 who hasn't been sacked, I believe. Oh, aside from Brendan Rodgers, who's now in line for, of course, cheap ass fucking Tottenham. He wants to go to Tottenham now. Brendan Rodgers to Tottenham would be classic Spurs. Classic. A choking, bottling manager goes to the choking, bottling team so that they can be good and then choke and bottle. Amazing. Please, Brendan Rodgers, please go to Spurs, get Spurs' hopes up, and then blow it. Oh, God, that would be amazing. Anyway, West Ham do need that win against Southampton. I really like Southampton. Why do I like Southampton? I don't know. I like what I've seen from Celis, and I like what I've seen from Lavia. And, of course, any team that has James Ward-Prowse is legendary. I'm pretty sure they don't have a striker because I think, if I looked correctly, I'm pretty sure Che Adams got hurt in the Scotland game. I'm just going to double check that one. But yeah, just totally insane, totally wild. Che Adams doubtful. We'll see. Injuries for West Ham minor. Fabianski and Mikel Antonio. We'll see what happens there. I'm not sure what the plan is from Moyes. He's got to win this game. If he loses against Southampton, he's in deep, deep, deep shit. Like fired deep shit. Like the sword of Damocles now fallen on Everton. There's no more sword. I don't know who the next manager would be, and it definitely doesn't rhyme with Damocles, with Damocles. So we'll have to find someone else to be the sword of Damocles. But West Ham's a good job. That's a good team. I just think that Moyes just doesn't know how to go to the next step. He knows how to take an underdog squad of guys that he runs into the ground. But when you start putting better players in place, his mojo starts to mojo away. And it's interesting. I do think that does segue to something that I wanted to talk about, because we've got Everton versus Spurs on Monday. And that's managers, how it works, what makes a good manager. There was a really good 2-part thing on The Athletic, and they talked about management and what makes a good manager, and how much of it is the brand, how much of it is confidence, how much of it is coaching, and how weird it is in the Premier League that only the coaches are the only people who have to talk. Like, you don't get directors of football, you don't get a PR person, you don't get players. The manager has to talk 2 times per game for every game, right? So once before, once after, and then usually after every game off the pitch. So when he comes off the pitch, so there's 2 press conferences for the press where they sit there, and those are the ones you can watch on YouTube, and then 2 TV spots before every game, because there's international games. So that's a lot of commitment that you're not on the pitch, plus whatever other kind of like shaking babies. It's kind of a political role. So you kind of need a good politician who actually is competent, which is a very weird mix of folks. And there's, what kind of managers you are. Do they fit in? And I think the line that I heard that I liked the most was, a manager has to be the right person for a club at the right time, in the right moment, in the right process point. So like, if you're coming up from the divisions, David Moyes is the right person. But if you're 3 seasons in, he's not. Are you a project manager? Are you a firefighter? Are you a ready-made to win coach? Are you a build it with your own guys coach? Are you a staunch ideologue about how you have to play? Or are you pragmatic? Will you change with how you do things? It's so fascinating. It's so interesting about how that works. And I think sometimes teams do need to swap around. Like, I do think, weirdly, Brendan Rodgers would be good at West Ham and Spurs at this point, but not good at, say, Arsenal, because of reasons, right? Where the expectations is like a level where you fit. Like right now, I don't feel like Moyes is the right fit for West Ham anymore, but he might be the right fit for Leicester. So like, could they swap managers? Like, it feels like right now Leicester needs that, hey, we're solid. Give the ball to Maddison. He's going to create everything. Vardy's going to get on the end of it. We're going to score goals by sitting deep and doing our thing, right? But whereas, they kind of are out of that and they need more defensive stability. Whereas West Ham are like, dude, Moyes, we got this. Let's go score some fucking goals. We got guys. Let's do it. Where Rodgers would be better at that, and let Fabianski and Dawson and Kurt Zuma just defend and be like, fuck it, we're gonna fight our asses off to do it. So there's these weird moments where you feel like a manager could shift, but you don't do it because you don't really see your team shift underneath a manager. It's kind of like, it's kind of like The Godfather, where you have peacetime and wartime consiglieres, right? Like sometimes you got to go to the mattresses where you need a firefighter, like a Dyche, but Dyche would be terrible at, say, Arsenal. Like, could you imagine Dyche at Arsenal? What, he wouldn't even know what to do. He would be like, well, we're not defending. We're not doing it this way. We're going to be nervous and sort of thing. But like, could he? I don't know. I'd love to find out. But it's fascinating how managers fit within the hierarchy. And then the other thing is that's interesting about the high level managers for these super clubs, right? Your Real, Barca, PSG, Bayern, Man United, City, Liverpool, that group of clubs. There seems to be only like 8 managers and they just keep rotating, even though none of them really fits. None of them is really for the right club. None of them really goes there. So fascinating. And we're going to find out more about the management at Spurs on Monday. So Stellini takes over? He must have been like, hey, Conte, is it cool if I keep this job? Christian Stellini and Ryan Mason take over. And he's like, yeah, you can stay. I got my check. I'm out of here. Unfortunately for Spurs, they've got their starting midfield is gone. So Basuma and Betancourt have been out all year. Ben Davies is actually a good thing that he's out. And then, they still have Kane, Son, and Kulusevski, and Højbjerg and Skip. Where's the creativity? Why is Eric Dyer still playing in defense? I'll never understand. Fraser Foster's terrible. Buy a fucking goalkeeper. What are you doing? Spurs. Jesus Christ. And then for Everton, I love Tarkowski. I don't like Keane, but Godfrey Tarkowski, Keane with Gay, Onana, Decore, they're going to play like this deep. They're going to schmuck. I mean, neither of these teams are going to want the ball, and we'll see if the force of Everton just comes and punches Spurs in the face, and they just go, oh, what the fuck? I mean, I could see Kane just pulling this game out because he's that good, but, Spurs need a performance as well here, and that's the sort of weekend of the Premier League. Now, I do want to go back to wrap up some of the international stuff, but really there's only one game I care about, and that's Scotland 2, Spain 0. Oh, Scott McTominay, Hampden Park, they can boogie. I'm so happy for Scotland. It's just an incredible result for Scotland to beat Spain with their new coach. And Spain just are still soft, frankly. They just don't have juice. They don't have energy. They don't have a striker. They tried to disrespect the Scots, and the Scots fucking put it on them. So good for Scotland. I really enjoyed that. I thought that was a strong performance. Really happy about that, what I saw. Other games, this is the Netherlands 3 game. They took 52 shots, and only scored 3 goals. What an incredible... And Nathan Ake scored 2 of them. I don't know what the fuck was going on in that game. 52 shots. Gibraltar were a man down from 51. I don't know. That game's inhuman. 52 shots. I don't know what happened there. Italy, I think I talked about these on Monday. Let's see. Any other games? Sweden, Azerbaijan. Hungary, Bulgaria. Romania, Belarus. Croatia get back off the schneid after drawing. They beat Turkey. Then Scotland, Spain. Like I said, that was the big one. That was huge. That really put them on good footing. Yeah, I talked about Ireland and France a little bit on Monday. Nothing really crazy here. So really just about Scotland and Spain. Scotland trying to make another European championship. With the expanded numbers, they should have no problem. Scotland and Spain, top of their group. France and Greece, top of theirs. England and Italy, both top of their groups. Italy, they should walk through these things. Croatia and Wales getting that draw versus Croatia puts them in good stead. Czech Republic and Poland that one seems a bit more open. Austria and Belgium lead their group. Belgium and Kevin De Bruyne playing well. Lukaku with a hat trick. Serbia get 2 wins even without Mitrovic, or maybe he did play. Slovenia also have 2 wins. They're topping their group. Switzerland with 2, Romania with 2. I haven't seen Romania for many, many years since Hadji was there. And then Portugal dropping a 10 spot on 2 games. They face no opposition. They're going to walk their group. So the Euros looking, they'll be next year, a year from now. I don't know. But anyway, Scotland looking good, putting it on Spain. Of course, my friend Rodri complaining that they had anti-football tactics. I'm like, yeah, it's Scotland. Of course they had fucking anti-football tactics. What else are they going to do? They're Scots. Their midfield played in the championship. Meanwhile, Spain's midfield is Real Madrid and Barcelona. What do you want the Scots to do? You know what I mean? Kilkenny ain't walking through that door. That's all I'm saying. Craig Burley ain't walking through that door. Steve Nicol ain't walking through that door. Anyway, I am rambling. I am ranting. Can't wait for 4 a.m. City versus Liverpool. I'm getting up. I got to do the damage. Just get in there. Feel the pain. Feel it with me. And anyway, that was the Squeaky Bum Time Podcast with Laurent Courtines. We are the football wing of the Chop Sports channel and presented exclusively by the Premier Streaming Network. We record on Mondays and Thursdays, so be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. And if you're listening on Apple or any other podcast player, please rate and review the show. It means everything all the time, all at once. Bye.